Hey everybody, Chris, the old ass retro gamer here. Still trying to figure out this StreamYard stuff over here. Whew! Yeah, it's been a day. Welcome to the next episode of my Video Game Collection 2022 live streams. Chris, the old ass retro gamer here. Welcome, Freak of Four and Peter. Yeah. Today I'm going to be talking about my NES games, or at least the first third of them. You can kind of see some of them over here. That's everything that I'm not talking about today. I still have, this is going to be 3 videos. Yeah, it works. So I talked about this in every one of these live streams that I've done, even the ones back like 2 years ago or whatever, but not doing these to brag. Not doing it to show off my collection. I'm doing it to have a visual log of everything in my collection just in case there's something bad that happens. Like, a fire or robbery or something. And number 2, it's really good to have content flowing in a weekly fashion. It's nice. And 3, it's fun. I like talking to people and talking games, so why not combine them both? So, hey, what's up, Great White North? Woo, shared and all that. Oh, thank you so much. You're the best. So NES was the console that I wanted so bad back in the day. We had an Atari 2600, and when the NES came out, my parents were not interested, didn't care, were being cheap. We're like, you already have a video game console, you don't need another one. I don't care if all your friends have it, psst, whatever. We're not buying that. You don't need it. So we whined for years. And if my recollection is correct, I can't be absolutely positive, but I do believe we got it finally Christmas, I think it was 89, because like Batman had just come out the summer before, and the game came out just after Christmas that year, or came out Christmas that year. I can't remember. So yeah, we got it super late, but I had played tons and tons of games for this console. Like I said, all my friends had it. I was always going over to their house. I watched one of my friends, Gary, that I hung out with from like 6th grade on. He was getting like new games every week or every other week. And I would go to his house and I would basically sit there and watch him no death run stuff. Like he would just play game. Like he would play a game. I'd come over, I'd sit down next to his desk or his bed or whatever it was that he was sitting on. I would sit on the floor, whatever, and watch him beat a game from beginning to end in one sitting. He started to do that with Final Fantasy with me, and I was like, you know what? No. No. I have to help my girls bed. No problem, dude. Nope, no worries, Peter. I understand. So when we finally did get the NES, I was like over the moon. We convinced our parents not only to get us the NES and a couple of games like to go along with it, but like we convinced my grandmother, because my brother and I we used to be big whiners, to buy us a couple of more after we got it, like that same vacation, like that Christmas vacation. We convinced my grandma to buy us each another game. And I had a terrible habit of picking the crappy ones, and my brother was the one that was always getting the good ones. So I quickly amassed a library because I was I was saving my lunch money every day during school. I wouldn't buy anything. I would just wait until I got home and eat something. And every weekend or every other weekend, I would go to the local mall. There was a KB Toys in there, and they always had like a wall of discounted NES games or clearance NES games, and I would always buy one. I was doing that, getting games for, holidays, for birthdays, trading games with friends that I didn't like. Not the friends, the games that I didn't like. And yeah, I want to say that by the time the Super Nintendo had come out, I probably had maybe 50 games, maybe even close to 60 of my own. And I loved it, but the Super Nintendo came out and, didn't pay attention to the NES anymore, got rid of it. The NES was my baby, or the Super Nintendo was my baby. It was the first console I ever bought with my own money, so the NES kind of went out the window. But in the late 90s, I got back into retro, well, what is now retro video gaming, but like, video gaming stuff. And I went back and rebought all the NES stuff that I had, bought more stuff that I never got a chance to try and stuff like that. Now that I had jobs that actually paid like real money, not like working at Kmart where you're making like $3 an hour. Now some bullshit. I could buy like one video game and maybe buy 2 or 3 lunches, and I was broke. So yeah, I have a soft spot for the NES because my brother and I complained so much about it. We finally got it, caught up with all of our friends, and then I want to say within 2 years it was gone because Super Nintendo time. But when it comes to nowadays, I not only made a goal to repurchase all the games that I had when I was a kid, but to buy ones that I've always wanted, pretty much buy anything that looks interesting. And I decided, like an idiot, that I was going to do it all complete in box, not realizing at the time how freaking expensive it was going to be. But I'm pretty proud because I have a pretty decent collection of CIB games, as you can tell, and you're about to see. So let's get into it. So yeah, this is the first third of my NES collection. This might be a long video, okay? So we'll start off with 3D World Runner. I think my friend Gary rented this. I don't think he owned it, but I remember I watched him play it. And it's like you're running into the screen. The scrolling effect of the ground is kind of cool the way it works. And you're supposed to collect all these stars. You have to jump over crevasses and stuff like that and avoid enemies and all that. And it turns into kind of like Space Harrier at one point. You can kind of see it on the top picture in the back that there's like a big dragony looking thing and you're shooting. So I always kind of wanted to have my own copy of this, but now that I don't own a CRT anymore, kind of makes the 3D impossible to do. This copy does not come with the 3D glasses. I might be able to buy those separately. I did buy the 3D glasses for another game that I have for the NES separately. I'll have to look into getting them for this, but it's not like I'm going to be able to use them because I don't think it'll show up correctly on a 4K television, even if I'm using my Retro Freak. But I remember it being a pretty fun game, and I ended up picking this up at this year's Midwest Gaming Classic. I really didn't have any specific games I was really looking for back when I went in, was it April? But I ran into a table that had some pretty decently priced NES games, and I found, I think, 2 or 3 of them there that I found for a really decent price that I could not pass up, and this was one of them. So, yay! So there's that. I got to remember to put these in a specific order so I can put them back on my shelf easy. Okay. Next up is 1942. This is an arcade port of a vertically scrolling shmup where you're playing as a World War II plane and you're taking on the Japanese. And I'm pretty sure the Japanese really enjoyed making this game because it's basically about Americans shooting them. Damn. But yeah, I cannot imagine what those people were feeling like when they were making this game or why the Japanese thought that this would be a good idea. But whatever. Then again, we're making games now where we're shooting terrorists of different countries and shit, but whatever. It's not the greatest port of this arcade game. I've played the arcade game. The arcade game is actually pretty fun. This port is like, it's kind of half-assed. I got this from Nintendo. He was selling a bunch of games in his collection, and this was one of the CIB ones that he had that I did not own. So I made him an offer, and he accepted, and I was pretty happy. Now I just got to get the second one. What is it, 1943? That would make sense because 1943 comes after 1942. I'm a genius. Next up is Abidox. This was one that I rented a lot from my local video store. And it's a shmup. It goes vertical and horizontal. It like alternates between the two. And it's kind of like a ripoff of Life Force because you're inside a living being and you're shooting like white blood cells and, organs and stuff like that are coming at you. It's kind of cool. The only thing is, man, this game is freaking hard. And I remember we had our NES Advantage at this point in time. Before my brother threw it at the wall and broke it. And I remember I had to use the slowdown feature just to get anywhere in this damn game. And it kind of sucked trying to play it like that. Try playing an entire game in that slow motion feature where it's just constantly going bleep, 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 because that sound of it pausing and unpausing. Ugh. But yeah, I still enjoy this game. It's decent. It's not as good as Life Force. You're not really playing as a ship. You're playing as like a dude in like a spacesuit with a cannon on his chest. You know, kind of looks like his dick. His dick. You can kind of see it up at the top there. You can see him. It's not going to be the clearest picture ever, but yeah. But I have a soft spot for it, even though I found the game incredibly frustrating and difficult. So these games I never owned back in the day. I had friends who owned a couple of these for like the Commodore 64, and I remember I watched my buddy Charlie play, I think one of them that I own on his Commodore 64, and I thought it was kind of cool. I never thought we'd ever get them on the NES, but eventually we did. And I was kind of surprised, but I never, like I said, never bought any of these games at all. So when I got back into collecting in 2013, I was like, you know what? I want those D&D games. So I now have Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dragon Strike. This one is unlike all the others. The other ones are like RPGs or action RPGs, adventure games. This one's a shmup. You're playing as, like you can see on the cover, you're playing as a dude riding a dragon and you're shooting other dragons. And I had no flippin' clue. I had never heard of this when I got back into, or when I had gotten back into collecting in 2013. I knew nothing about this. I knew of the other two that I have, but I did not know that this one existed or the one that I don't have existed. But I thought that was so cool when I found out. I was like, oh, so there's a D&D version of Dragon Spirit? I think I need that. And then I immediately went online and got a copy. And I got it pretty cheap. This is long before COVID. So I was super stoked to get a copy of this. And then we have D&D, or Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Heroes of the Lance. This one is kind of like the action RPG. This, I think, this is the one that my friend Charlie had on his Commodore 64, I think. Just the way it's laid out looks familiar. Where it's like half the screen is devoted to the gameplay and the other half of the screen is devoted to your character's stats. And it's like a dungeon crawler from the side, like a side scroller. And I remember watching him playing and thinking it was pretty cool. The NES game doesn't, I don't think the NES version translates very well, honestly. It's just really kind of clunky because when you were playing on your Commodore 64, you had a whole keyboard. You had hotkeys and all this kind of stuff. Now you have a small little controller with a directional pad, a start and a select button, and an A and a B button, and that's pretty much it. So commands were very limited, and if I remember correctly, there's like weird combinations of buttons that you need to do in order to get things to work right. But I always wanted to own a copy of this once I found out that it existed back in the day. Didn't have a chance to get one until now. So, yeah. And the last one I have is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Pool of Radiance. This one is the one that looks like Ultima to me. And I have not dived into it yet. I made sure that it worked when I bought it. But I have been afraid to jump into this one because Ultima scares me. My dad used to play Ultima on his Atari computer all the time when I was a kid. And those games just looked immense to like a 6 or 7 year old. And like when I look at this picture, not only does it look bland as hell because everything just looks green. I just don't know if I want to play something like that because it looks like a very basic RPG. So we'll see. Eventually, I'll get around to playing it. I promise. But it's not going to be in the immediate future. The one I don't have is called Hillsfar, and that one is like beyond expensive. And I am not willing to pay that kind of money for a game I've never played before. So now we get into a game that I do have a story about. 2 stories, actually. That's Adventure Island. It's known as Hudson's Adventure Island. I just go by Adventure Island. I catalog it under Adventure Island. I need to drink real quick. I'm not tired or anything like that today. I do have a headache, though. Probably should have popped an aspirin before I did the stream, but, you know, I never said I was smart. So I went back in the day. This had to be like in the early mid 80s. I went to Showbiz Pizza for like a classmate's birthday party. And I played Wonder Boy in the arcade, and I loved it. I thought it was the greatest game ever. And I was like, I cannot wait for this to come out for the Atari, because every game comes out for the Atari. No, it never happened. So, didn't have a Master System. Never was able to play Wonder Boy on the Master System. So, my brother gets a copy of this one day. And I'm playing it at home, and I'm sitting there going, this is like super familiar to me. What is this game? And then all of a sudden it hits me. I was like, is this freaking Wonder Boy? Did they rip off Wonder Boy completely? How is this? How is like Hudson not being sued by Sega right now? What is happening here? And I was running around telling everybody, don't buy that Adventure Island game. It's a complete ripoff of Wonder Boy. Like, I don't know how Hudson's not getting sued right now. And it turned out that Hudson had licensed Wonder Boy from Sega and slapped their own character over Wonder Boy, and that's where Master Higgins came from. So that was the one story where I was just telling everybody, don't buy it. That's my phone. Someone texted me. So the other one is that once I like accepted the game and started telling, I was telling everybody don't buy it, don't buy it. One kid in my class was like, can I borrow it and see it for myself? And it was a kid that I knew from a couple of classes, but we weren't like friends. So like against my better judgment, I was like, yeah, sure, you can borrow it. And I let him borrow it, and I didn't get it back for a year. Every single time I'd be like, can I get my goddamn game back? And he'd be like, I'm still busy. I'm still busy with it. I'm still playing. I'm like, you've been playing it for a year. Give me my fucking game back, or I'm going to go and find out your address, and I'm going to come to your house, and I'm going to fucking take it. And eventually I got like a teacher involved where I told him, I was like, this kid stole from me. And every time I tell him to give me my stuff back, he basically like brushes it off. And my teacher got involved and was like, you know what? I will call your parents. And eventually the kid gave it back. So yeah, but got this game, played it for maybe a month, and then it disappeared for a year. Then I got to play it again afterwards. But as a hack of Wonder Boy, it's actually pretty fun. It's a very hard game. It does get very hard in the last couple of levels. Just ask Jen of Retro Rivals. This is not called Adventure Island to her. This is called Devil's Island. That makes me laugh whenever I hear that. Next up is the sequel, Adventure Island 2. And this one I'm not very familiar with. I haven't played it a whole lot. I played it to make sure it worked when I picked it up. And it is similar to the first one, but they started adding in like these animal friends that you can actually like mount and ride and use their powers to get around. But the mechanics are basically the same as the first game, so I really can't complain. Boss battles are definitely a hell of a lot better in this one than they are in the first one. The first one's like jump a couple times and axe the guy in the head. Their pattern is exactly the same every single time. They are not a challenge. Here, yeah, a little bit. So I was super stoked about this. I still need to get the third one and get a repro of the fourth. Fuck this game, though. Fuck it right in the ear. The Adventures of Bayou Billy. This game was probably the bane of every single one of my friends' existences back then. Every one of us was like, the graphics are great. The music is great. What is up with the difficulty? Why does it take 3,700 hits to take a person down? And you have a time limit, I think, if I'm correct. I think there's a time limit. It's been a while, because this game angers me. So it is like one of those games. I will give it credit. It is one of those games that has like multiple play styles. It has beat 'em up segments. It has light gun segments, like like a on rails shooter kind of thing, and driving levels. The music and the graphics are absolutely fantastic. Like Konami, like really knocked it out of the park in that department. But when it came to porting this from the the Famicom over to the US, Konami for some reason thought it was a great idea to just ramp up the difficulty like to the extreme level. And like I said, it takes forever to just defeat one person. And I am not a fan of it. But like I said, I do like the music and the graphics and all that, so that's why I picked it up. Plus, I got it for super cheap when it came out. I got it for super cheap when I got back into collecting, which is why I own it. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bought it again. But love the front artwork and all that. But the game itself is like, I might just get a copy of the Japanese version so I can play it without wanting to rip my non-existent hair out. You know what I'm saying? Next up is a game everyone talked about when I was a kid before I had my NES, and I never had a chance to play it until probably a year ago, 2 years ago. And that's The Adventures of Lolo. It's like a puzzler where you play as this little fur ball, and you like move blocks around, and you're taking out enemies and trying to kill all the enemies on screen to make an exit appear. And as the further you go, the more complicated the puzzles get, the more aggressive the enemies get, and it gets harder and harder, like any good game should. I'm rambling because apparently I am tired. But I never played this game. I remember at junior high standing outside school during like a fire drill or something, and a couple of kids that I kind of knew in passing were having like a conversation about this game, and one kid was like, I don't like it, it's too hard. The other kid's like, you just gotta freaking like use your brain. Like if your brain worked right, you'd be able to play this game and you get a kick out of it. And I just remember standing there going like, that was a dick thing to say. But it always kind of fascinated me. And then I didn't even realize that there was like 3 games in this series on the NES, but whatever. So I found this at my new local retro game store. And I expected the guy, that's the thing that surprises me about video games then and now, my retro store, that every time I think that the guy is going to do like the eBay price thing, he surprises me by doing the exact opposite. So like this was going for a decent amount of money at one point, and when I went there, he was like going for, I think, like $30 less than everyone else was. And I was like, I'll pick that up for that price. So now I can play it. And it's actually pretty fun. I remember the day that I picked it up, I cleaned it, put it in my Retro Freak, played it for probably a good hour and a half, trying to, get the hang of it. And I was like really enjoying myself. I just got to look for the other 2 games in the series. This was one of the first games I picked up when I got back into collecting in 2013. There was a guy, I don't remember what his name was. I don't think I'm friends with him anymore on Facebook. I think it was Adam or something. He was like in one of the groups that I was in where they had to do with Nintendo games. And he was like selling a bunch of CIB games that he didn't want anymore. And I was like, oh, this is a chance I can get some of these deals I always hear people talking about. And I picked up, I think, 3 or 4 games off the guy for really, really good prices, especially like for 2013. And one of them was Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Never played this back in the day. Read the book of this back in the day when I was in like grade school. Went and saw a play of this when I was in junior high. Yeah. No, saw the play of Huckleberry Finn. That was what we saw. But this is like a platformer, and it reminded me when I was playing it, when I first got it to make sure that it worked, it reminded me a lot of like the Goonies 2. Just without all the freaking frustrating doorway stuff and, oh, where's this door going to take you, and the big map of everything. But like some of the mechanics of it really reminded me of Goonies 2. Plus, there's a couple of scenes where you're river rafting. You can see it up there. It's decent. The graphics aren't the greatest. The music isn't the greatest. It plays pretty decently, but it does feel like one of those games where it was like, hey, we got a license that's probably in the public, what do they call it? The public arena or whatever it is. Anybody can license it and not have to pay a fee. Let's make a game out of it real quick before somebody does make us start paying for the name Tom Sawyer, like the Mark Twain properties. And it does feel kind of thrown together, but it's not bad. Like, I'm not sad that I own it. I haven't gotten rid of it. Like seriously, a lot of people will be like, oh, I bought a game, I hate it, I'm going to get rid of it. Or I'm not going to get rid of it because I just want to amass all the things. Public domain. Thank you, Great White North. Thank you. Most people are like, I just want to collect all the things. I don't want to sell things even if they suck. If a game sucks and I'm never going to play it, it's gone. Public domain. Yeah, I'm dumb. I really should have taken an aspirin because my headache is really bad right now. This is a repro that I got from, was it Shantendo 64? He used to be a YouTuber. He would talk about repros all the time. I think all of his the videos on his channel were all about reproductions that either he was making or he was getting elsewhere. He even did like a thing on, what is the name? Riff. That guy Riff. He used to go by a different name back in like the early 2010s, and then like he closed his YouTube account and started a new one. But he had, like, his old show, he used to have like a little section every once in a while in one of his videos where Shantendo would pop up and be like, here's the repro of the day kind of thing. The thing about this one is I did own the Famicom cart back in 2002, 2003, I want to say, when I first discovered eBay and I started looking up weird things while I was at work on break and all that. And I started to discover the wonderful world of Famicom games and all the stuff that we did not get over here. Yeah, there's no point in keeping. What's up, VGM? How's it going? Yeah, I think I just need to get hydrated. I didn't drink a whole lot of water today, so. What is up, Mondane? How's it going? So going on eBay and like discovering all these new Famicom games that we never got over here. You know, me, my license game fixation. I found one and I was like, I don't care what it is. I need to have it in my life. Not realizing that it wouldn't play on an NES because it was my first Famicom game. So I bought this game that I now have a repro of, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this ain't going to work. I need to get some sort of an adapter. And I bought an adapter, and then when I tried to play it, I was like, oh, shit, it's all in Japanese. I thought this was going to be an action game because I knew of an Amiga game that came out based on this license that was an action game, and I assumed it was just automatically going to be a port of that. Turns out, no, it's a visual novel, and it's all in Japanese, and I don't speak Japanese. Should probably learn. Be using my time at work, sitting there doing nothing, learning a new language. This is gonna be a long stream. The Triple B Day, it's happening. And that game is Akira, based on that anime movie that blew my freaking mind back in like 1988 or whatever it was when I rented this. So yeah, like I said, it was a visual novel completely in Japanese. I had no idea what was going on or what I was supposed to be doing because, no shocker, the manual was in Japanese too. Didn't have that translate app on a cell phone I could use to just aim at things with the camera that would automatically translate. No, we didn't have that kind of crap back in 2002. So I got rid of it. And then Shantendo, a year or two ago, put a repro of it up on his Instagram shop. And I jumped on it. And I was like, give it to me. I need it. I want it now. And it's actually pretty cool. What's happening back in the day, gamer? What is up? So, yes, this is a very clean repro. It is very cool looking. The cart itself, black as night. Like my soul. It comes with a manual and everything. That's why I always loved getting repros from Shantendo. Because he does the full shebang. He does everything. And the game itself is not bad. If you're a fan of Akira, you're definitely going to get a kick out of it like I did. And the thing is, it has like multiple endings depending on the choices that you make that do not have anything to do with what happened in the manga or the movie. It just goes off in directions. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, I would highly recommend looking this one up. I am super happy that I have a copy of this in my collection and in box and with a manual and is translated. Let's see what's going on here. You see Too Young because I was working at Blockbuster. You got to see that Way Too Young? Yeah, that came out like in 88, so I was in 8th grade, I guess. And I just remember we saw it at the video store, and I didn't know what it was. All I said was like, ooh, it's an adult cartoon. I won't tell my parents that. I'll just say, hey, it's a cartoon movie. Can you rent it? And they're like, yeah, sure. Not realizing that there's exploding heads and people being blown up and their innards plastered all over the walls and stuff and, you know, that kind of thing. They didn't watch it with us, so they didn't know, but got me hooked on the anime in the late 80s, early 90s. It does have a 4K version. Ghost in the Shell has one too. I have the Ghost in the Shell one. I don't own the 4K of Akira because the Blu-ray of it that I have has a particular dub of it that I'm really fond of. And I'm not sure if the 4K has that dub on it. So I'm really hesitant to buy that 4K until I find out if it does or not. Here's another repro I got from Shantendo. It's another licensed game. This one came out, I do believe, in the UK and maybe in Japan, but I think mostly this is a European game, and that's Aladdin. We got a downgraded port of the Super Nintendo game by Virgin on the NES back in the UK. We never got it over here for some reason. I don't know why. You would think that milk every possible penny you could from your license kind of thing that Disney was doing back then. But they decided not to release this in the US. So when I saw that Shantendo had put this up on on his Instagram account, I jumped on it. Only thing was, I didn't own the Super Nintendo game yet. I own it now. Spoilers. I had played the Super Nintendo game back in the day, and it had been a long time at the point when I bought this since I had last played that. So when I was playing this, I was like, wow, I remember this game being so much better. But then I'm sitting there going, oh, yeah, wait a minute. It's a downgraded port. Maybe the reason we didn't get this over here is because it's not the greatest game ever. It actually controls pretty craptastically. So I'm glad that I have it because it's kind of cool that I have a game that was never officially released over here in a physical copy and is playable. So there's that, but the game itself is not the greatest. The controls are pretty shitty. But here's a licensed game that I can endorse wholeheartedly. I don't give a crap if people don't like the movie. I love this movie. Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and Ninja Scroll were the main three anime. Yep. See, I actually ended up working in a video store in the mid-'90s, and I convinced my boss to start anime or getting anime because all he had was Akira and the Street Fighter 2 animated movie that came out around the same time as Mortal Kombat, the live-action movie, and Ghost in the Shell. And since those rented so much, I'm like, you do see this, and there's like a market for this kind of thing. People are renting it like crazy. Let's start an anime section. So we got like, what was it, Doomed Megalopolis, The Professional, Mermaid Scar, one of the tapes of Ranma 1/2, like the first set of episodes of Ranma 1/2, and a bunch of other ones that I talked him into buying. And he was just kind of mad at first that they weren't renting, but they started to catch on. And next thing you know, like everyone was coming for anime. I could talk about anime for hours. Yeah, I can only talk about early anime. I stopped watching anime probably in 96 or 97. Anything after that is kind of like, what? A strictly anime video store. That is awesome. So this licensed game is based on a movie that's a sequel to a couple of very popular, very well-liked movies, very well-received and reviewed movies. This one was not, but I don't care. I still love it. I still think this one is better than the one that came after it and a couple of the sequels that they made afterwards. We're talking Alien 3. And yes, this is an LJN joint. So you have the Genesis version of Alien 3, which is a side-scrolling platformer. You're playing as Ripley. You're rescuing these cocooned prisoners, and you have to rescue so many of them within a time limit, get to an exit. 3 sets of levels within each stage. At the end of the stage, you fight a boss, move on and do it again, and it gets harder and harder. The thing about the game is the same thing I said when I was talking about it for the Master System, because one of my goals was to get every version of this game that is available on a home console, and I do have that entire subset in my collection. So I'll say it again. The rules of the movie were Ripley crash lands on a planet, a prison planet, where there are no weapons at all. It's all prisoners who are like rapists and murderers and that kind of thing. It's infested with lice, and there's only one alien running around killing people. So what do you do when you get the license to a movie that doesn't have a lot of ways for you to interpret it into a game that might be playable? You say, screw what the movie set up, let's just do our own thing. So what it is you're playing as Ripley on the prison planet. You start off with a machine gun, a flamethrower, rocket launcher. Oh, was it a machine gun, a grenade launcher, a flamethrower, and grenades. And there's tons of aliens running around, including boss ones that are huge and stuff like that. And they kind of said whatever to the rules of the movie. But, I understand why they did, because you wouldn't be able to have a game based on that. That isn't called Alien Isolation. But doesn't mean the fact that I didn't like the game. I love the Genesis game. And this is a downgraded port. The Game Gear and Master System versions of Alien 3 are downgraded ports of the Genesis game, just like this. And it plays fine. It's a little bit fast. Like Ripley moves a little bit too fast for her own good. But it plays basically the same. The music is completely different, but it is really cool in that Nintendo way. I have a lot of fun with this one, but the Genesis one is still my favorite version of this game, because the Super Nintendo one and the Game Boy one are completely different games, altogether. Nothing like this. But when it comes to this version of the game, this one is the Genesis one is the better one, but this one is still pretty good. If you're an Alien fan, I say why not? Fincher did what he could. Yeah, the script that went through so many different changes, like the planet was going to be made of wood and it was going to be filled with monks and stuff. Ripley was going to die and the movie was going to be about Hicks at one point. Yeah, change everything. Yeah, Fist of the North Star, I had gotten into the manga of that before I ever got into anime, because my local comic shop, I was talking about this in the last stream, that my local comic shop got in a whole bunch of Fist of the North Star manga issues, And I bought those, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. I can't believe my parents let me buy this. There's people's heads exploding. You know? And then once I found out that there was a movie, and that was probably in 92, 91 or 92 when I realized there was a movie. And I watched that movie over and over again. I thought it was the coolest freaking thing ever, especially that stupid rock song that plays over the end fight. Next up is a new game for the NES, like a brand new game that came out like a year ago. I got this through Limited Run Games, and they were selling it for Retrobit, I guess, was the company that originally was doing it. And it's called Alwa's Awakening. And this is the 8-bit edition. I'm assuming that there's editions that are not 8-bit style. But there's really no pictures of the game on the back. It's basically like what comes inside. It's still sealed, though. Should I do an unboxing? What's up, Salazar Naruto? How's it going? Have you played Colonial Marines? I have, and I don't hate it as much as everybody else does, because I did not fall for the hype. You missed everything. You missed everything, bro. You missed like half of a stack of games, dude. I've been talking for 38 minutes about 10 games. Shit. So yeah, let's do an unboxing of this thing, because yeah, we'll do a Captain Algebra style. No game needs to stay wrapped in my collection. So I basically bought this because I was like, "Ooh, cool, new NES game. I'm down with that." Not knowing anything about it, because that's the way I am sometimes. So yeah, according to the picture on the back, it's supposed to come with all this stuff. The artwork is pretty cool. It has like a matte finish, but the character and the title is glossy, which is kind of neat. And it doesn't open up like a real... Oh, does it? I thought this was a slipcover. It is a slipcover. Okay. So it does have an outer sleeve. That's probably the... This is what's probably the special edition part of it that you got, because everything else probably looked like this. And this is also a matte with a matte finish now. The characters in the title are glossy, which is kind of neat. But this one does have pictures of the back, and it is, from what I can tell, it looks like a Mega Man game, which I am not opposed to. Are you curious about this? Yeah, let's see what comes inside. Let's see if the packaging didn't lie. Well, you got the cart. And it is glow in the dark, maybe? Sure, why not? Yeah, I played Fireteam with Mondane over there. Fireteam is awesome. What's up, Midwest Media Show? Also comes with the instruction book, which is completely full color, and this is this is nothing to be. This is going to be a fingerprint magnet. It is so glossy. Jesus, why? Also comes with this envelope that probably just has a bunch of stuff I'm never going to look at. So, Alwa's Awakening, Certificate of Authenticity, 8-bit edition. This is number 2,447 out of 5,000. I guess that's cool. Also has this like lithograph that's like one of those lenticular things. That's kind of neat. Also has a behind the game book, probably telling you about the designing of the game or the making of it. And it also has, what is this, a poster? Yeah, I'm gonna hang this up. This is kind of stupid and pointless. What the hell am I gonna do with that? I don't know. Is that it? Is that all of it? Yep, that's all that it comes with. Oh, man. But like I said, I was just super excited that there was a brand new NES game coming out. I didn't care. It's kind of like the same thing with like Micro Mages. I was like, I just need to have that because it's a new NES game. That's awesome. Got to support it. Got to give them my money. Give them all my money. So now the task of putting this back together again. Why do I sound like a Southern Belle? I don't know. It's my headache. So how's everybody doing tonight? Everyone having a good Thursday? Tomorrow's Friday. It's almost the weekend. Getting together with some friends probably on Saturday to celebrate my birthday. It's going to be rad. Putting this back together. Now I'm British. I don't know what's going on. I don't have multiple personality disorder. But yeah, super stoked to have gotten this. I need to play it now. I just hope it'll play on my my Retro Freak, because a lot of the newer games don't want to work. If it's a repro of an existing game, Even if it is a Japanese game, my retro freak will always recognize it. But if it's something like that, I don't know if it will. Yeah, it was in development hell forever. Yeah, the thing was, like, when I heard when Colonial Marines first got announced, I was like, oh, cool, a new Aliens game. I'll pick it up when it comes out. And then I never paid attention to it from that point on. So then I bought it, or I rented it, and I was like, yeah, this is okay. But then, like, I hear everyone going, like, this is the worst game ever. What the hell? They lied to us. So I was like, I wasn't paying attention to any of this stuff about its development and all that kind of. So I didn't really care. I was just like, yeah, it's an Aliens game. It's fun. I found Hicks shotgun. Yeah. Don't be hurt, but it's not like Mega Man. Then what is it like? Talk to me, Tony. Tell me something. What is it? I don't sound too Southern. I'm too Southern. Why I do declare? Killing it tonight, knocking out audio for my big project. Ooh. So this game I used to play all the time on my dad's Atari computer. He had a disc of it. I don't know if he got a bootleg. My dad was notorious. He would always find this one dude in like the computer magazines and the want ads or whatever it was. Like, you know, I'm selling bootlegs and stuff for like super cheap. My dad would go to this guy's house and get all these bootlegs and come back with them. I want to say this was one of them, but I don't care. I played this so much that I'm surprised. I'm not like a whiz at chess, even though it's nothing like playing chess. It's Archon. So it's set up a little bit like chess, where you have, you know, one set of pieces on one side of a checkerboard and another set like the white and the black. But the thing is, you don't play as like a king and a queen and a pawn and that kind of thing. You play as like fantasy characters. And when you take another person's space, you literally have a fight over it. So all of a sudden, the checkerboard turns into a battlefield, and you are fighting and controlling your character against the person you're trying to take whose spot you're trying to take. And it was like manticores and djinns and all this kind of crazy stuff, and it is super fun. I absolutely loved this game. I played it nonstop. And I remember I kept on saying to my dad, well, if it's on the Atari computer, it's going to come out for the 2600 eventually, right? And my dad's like, don't count on it. But did not have this back in the day on the NES. But one of the games I wanted to get, like when I first got back into collecting in 2013, one of the first games that I was like making a real effort to get was a copy of this, and I achieved it. But yeah, you can kind of see it on the back. You got like the checkerboard here, or the chessboard, and then you can see the arenas where you end up fighting over the spots. It is a very fun and cool game. I love this a lot. Do you drink the tea? You're from the South. I drink the iced tea with no sugar, sir. I have good taste, sir. Oh, God. But, yeah, check this out if you haven't already. It's a fantastic game. Like, it's a real... Like, that one I have a ton of nostalgia for. That and a game I have for the Game Boy Color that did not hold up at all. I'll talk about it when I get there. Next up is Astyanax. We did have this game when I was a kid back in the day, and I did not realize that it was kind of like a ripoff of, or maybe that was the other way around, that Legendary Axe was kind of a ripoff of this. I think this is based off of an arcade game, if I'm not mistaken, and the port just doesn't do the arcade game justice. I've never even seen an Astyanax arcade game, or Astyanax. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. I always said Astyanax. It's a side-scrolling, like, hack and slash beat 'em up, and it's okay. I just always had problems with the jumping. I hate the jumping in this game. But it's not bad. It's not terrible. It's not so bad that I was like, I don't want to own a copy of this ever. I mean, I bought it here. I'm holding it in my hand. I'm showing it to you people. So therefore, I don't think it's awful. But I got this at my old local video game shop, my old local retro one, for like $8 complete in the box. So I was not going to pass that up. It's all right. I kind of want to... Yeah, it's a word. I don't know if it's is it referring to like a Greek character or something like that? But I always said Astyanax. So yeah, I want to play if this is based on an arcade game, I would really love to play the arcade game at least once to see what it's like, compare. But yeah, not my favorite, but not horrible either. This one's been getting a lot of hate lately. I played the crap out of this in the arcade and at home. I didn't care. I never thought it was shitty. I haven't really played it recently, so I can't really comment. But we're talking bad dudes. I used to play the crap out of this in the arcade. And it is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. You play as these two, 80s wannabe heroes with the wife beaters and the knuckle gloves, walking around just beating the shit out of ninjas all the time. And I don't recall it being horrible, but like I hear people like Hungry Goriah calling this a piece of shit, and a bunch of other YouTubers calling it a piece of shit. I always enjoyed it, but like I said, I haven't played it in a while, so don't hold me to that. But yeah, it was just a simple beat 'em up, nothing crazy. I think you could do 2-player at the same time on this one. This doesn't have like the listings the way the current games do that tells you all the information you need to know. I think you can do 2-player at the same time. Don't quote me on that either. It's a lot of fun. See, I always got a kick out of this one, but you think it's a game, Peter? Jesus. But here's the big game that came out when I got my NES finally. And this was the game where I was like, hey, we got the NES. We got the game that everybody has to have. We're in the cool group now, right? And everybody was like, no. I'm the same way because I never could get into the shitty controls for Double Dragon. And I'm not talking about the arcade. I'm just talking about the NES. But Batman, the arcade or the video game, I loved this game. I played this game all the time, all day, every day, all weekend. I was like, what homework? What's homework? Batman. Yes, I did my homework. I did it at school, Mom. Batman. Side-scrolling platformer, absolutely fantastic. Controls, graphics, music, everything about it is top-notch. And especially when you see what it was supposed to be like before it got released, like the changes that got made to make it the game that we know, I'm glad that they did because I don't think this would have been nearly as cool. Doesn't really resemble the movie very much. It does have that feeling like it is a game that was completely unrelated, and then Sunsoft got the license to Batman and was like, quick, make some pixel swaps. We'll make this a Batman game. Because none of the bosses, aside from the Joker, have anything to do with the movie. The cutscenes kind of do. Some of the levels kind of sort of do, like Axis Chemicals and the clock tower or the bell tower or whatever it is. But like, when did Joker summon lightning? I don't remember that at all. Unless it was like one of those, what do they call them? The mockbusters that the Asylum makes, like Transmorphers or Atlantic Rim. But absolutely love this game. It's one of my all-time favorites. I could play this any day of the week. And the weird thing is like when I picked this copy up, this one that I'm holding back in like 2013 or 2014 or whatever it was, when I started playing it again, it was like I never stopped because it was like all the muscle memory just came right back. And I was doing these crazy jumps in like areas that you're not really supposed to that I used to do back in the day. I found like ways to bypass certain sections of the level by doing that wall jump in certain spots. And I was like, it's like the Mortal Kombat fatalities from part 2. They're just stuck in my brain permanently. Absolutely love it. All-time favorite. Great game. Hard, but very good. I've never beaten the Joker, but then I watch like people like Arcus on Twitch speedrun it, and like he beats the Joker in like 22 seconds. It's like, what? What's up? What's up, church? Yeah, it is a fantastic game. And then we got Batman Returns, which is not by Sunsoft. This one is by Konami. It is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, not like the beat-em-up that the Super Nintendo one is, which is a masterpiece. This one is not the greatest. It is very hard, but the sprites are pretty big, and the music is fantastic because Konami. Everything about like the looks and the sounds of it, like the audio-visual presentation, is top-notch. I just don't really like the controls, and the hitboxes are kind of wonky. But it does not mean it's not fun. I really do enjoy it. I think Captain Algebra beat this on stream a while ago, I think. But I was super stoked. I got this for a really good price. I even got it with that sticker, the official Batman reflective sticker on it, which is pretty rad. So yeah, I'm not the hugest fan of this movie, but the game is actually pretty good. But the Super Nintendo one, woo! Woo-hoo! The NECA figure for that game is epic. I used to have all the NECA figures. I had the Freddy one, the Jason one, the Konami, or the Contra guys. I had the Alien from Alien 3. I had the Batman. And then I got rid of them all because I was like, you know what? These things are just taking up space. I'm not doing anything with them. So first time last year, and beat it the first time. Took me a week. Leave my NES on to beat the Joker. freak of 4. That's funny. I did that for Ninja Gaiden. I totally did that for Ninja Gaiden. I left my NES on. We went to like a movie or something, and I was like, but I'm so far. This is the furthest I've ever been. They're like, turn the game off. I'm like, no, pause. Let's go. Not the worst one. Oh, no. Definitely not the worst one. The worst one is coming later. Long later. Way later. So next up is Battle of Olympus. I never played this back in the day, but I knew about it because everyone would tell me, oh, that Battle of Olympus is just a ripoff of Zelda 2. And? Just never got around to trying it out. Never rented it. I don't remember if any of my video stores that I would frequent when I was a kid actually had a copy of this on hand or not. I don't think so. Otherwise, I probably would have rented it. But I found this at the Midwest Gaming Classic in, I think, 2019 for pretty decent price. I want to say I paid like $40 for it or something, which is not bad for a complete in-box NES game like this. And yes, it is a complete ripoff of Zelda 2. It's not bad. I did play this because this was my backlog roulette game for one of the episodes of the Super Enabler Brothers podcast that I do with Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming. So it kind of forced me to play it. And it is really difficult. There's some spots where I was like, I have absolutely no clue what I'm supposed to do to pass this area to like do a jump or something like that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I missing something? And then luckily there's this thing called Game Facts or YouTube walkthroughs. But it's a really fun game. It does get really hard, and some of the objectives are kind of vague, but so is Zelda 2 at times. So I recommend it if you're into that. In fact, Xanadu, this will be right up your alley. I enjoy it. It's pretty cool. Best Batman is Forever. Or as Jack Black once called Batman Forever, the most sensual of all Batmen. Utopia on the TurboGrafx is a Zelda clone, but it is still damn good. Yeah, I have that one too. That one's a great game. Don't have the second one because I don't have $900 to spend on a game. Woo! Okay, I'm talking so fast, I'm like making myself out of breath. What the hell? That's where the trouble starts, is when I start talking super fast. Next up is an absolute classic. You either absolutely love this game or you absolutely hate it. I love it. I've loved it since the first time I played it. That's Battletoads. You might notice something about this one. It's been signed. Who signed this, you ask? I'm glad you did, even though you didn't. At this year's Midwest Gaming Classic, 2 people that worked at Rare were there. And that was Kevin Bayless, who was a game artist, and David Wise, who composed music for pretty much every single Rare game out there, was there. And I was super stoked to meet David Wise. He is my all-time favorite video game composer next to Yuzo Koshiro. They're probably tied. And when I learned that they were there, I brought 2 specific games with me to get signed. And they were not surprised by this one when I popped it out of my backpack. They were surprised by the other one that I brought. And I'll get to that one when I get there. But I absolutely love this game. I love the presentation. I love the way it switches things up constantly. So you have to learn new techniques to play the game. The music is fantastic. The graphics are super colorful. The controls are really tight. Like, the first level is like, oh, it's going to be a beat 'em up. It's, okay, sure, I've played these before. Okay, yeah, every once in a while when you kick something, your foot turns into a giant boot to do like a coup de grace to a bad guy. But then at the end of the level, you're fighting a robot boss, and it turns into like a first-person shooter, but it's from the point of view of the boss, and you're picking up rocks and like throwing them at him. It's really cool. And the next level is a racing level. And then there's one where you're going down a chasm on a rope, and it just is constantly switching up the play styles on you. And I absolutely love that. It just keeps you on your toes. So like you never get too comfortable. And that's why I really enjoy this game. I like games that'll constantly surprise me. And some people don't like that, and that's fine. I understand. But for me, this just does it for me. I'm one of the people who never had a problem with the turbo tunnel. Like, I might have died the first couple times I played it back in the day, but when I picked this copy up, which I actually got for a whopping, like, this game was going for over $100 when I got it. I paid $9 for this. And I'll tell you the story. But the thing is, when I got my copy, when it finally showed up in the mail, I popped it in, and I beat the turbo tunnel on the first try. And I was like, what's everyone bitching about? I don't get it. But whatever. Battletoads is great. Autograph. Yeah, very cool. Pay Pat. Pat. I'm so glad Pat showed up. So the way I got this, so you're going to hear stories about this throughout this entire series. I probably talked about it in the last series of collection videos too, but there was a Facebook group I was in called Trade, Sell, Collect Retro Video Games and Toys, or T-Scran Vigat was the abbreviation of it. And what it was if you wanted to sell a game of yours in your collection that was really expensive, but you didn't want to put it up on eBay and have to pay the fees or have the IRS tax you at the end of the year for making a profit on a really expensive game, you would put it up for sale on this Facebook group and they would raffle it off. So you would tell the person who owns it was this Vietnamese dude, I can't remember what his name was, who owned the group. You would tell him how much you wanted to sell the game for, what your total was. Like, let's say, like for this, he's like, I want, like, this game is worth $200. I want $200 for this game. So they'll put so many raffle tickets up at a certain price, like for $3 for a raffle ticket, and eventually it'll equal up. Like, we'll put as many of them out there that it takes to reach $200. Once those all sell out, they raffle the game off, person wins it, you get your money. And the guy that owned the group would get a little bit of a cut. Kind of like eBay, but not nearly as much as eBay would take out of it. The group imploded after a while. This was one of the last games I got through them. But yeah, I bought 3 tickets for Battletoads for the raffle, $3 each. I paid $9 for this. And I won. So super cool. You're going to see a lot of games in my collection that came from that group. I won a lot, like a lot. At one point, it was like every single time I would buy tickets, I would win. Everyone kept on going like, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged. I'm like, dude, I'm not the one doing the raffle at the end. I don't even know the person who's doing it. So, like, how is it rigged? I'm just lucky. Cool. But yeah, got it signed and everything, so I'm super happy about that. Great game. Oh, no, T-Scran. Yeah, T-Scran. The other 2 raffle groups that were awesome because I won Rule of Rose and Final Fantasy 7 CIB NES D-Make. Oh, yeah. Dude, I want that D-Make so much. That looks so cool. Can't go wrong. What's up, Comic Man? How's it going? Welcome. This one, Church, the Game Grinder, was there when I got this one at the Midwest Gaming Classic. So whenever a Midwest Gaming Classic is coming up, I usually would make a video on my channel to say, hey, these are 5 games I'm looking for at the Midwest Gaming Classic. And if you want to be cool and help me out, if you see it, if you're at the convention, these are the games I'm looking for. If you see them, let me know, and I'll come running over and pick it up. 2 years in a row, I think it was like I got absolutely nothing that I was actually looking for. None of that stuff was there, and if I did find it, it was too expensive. Not what was this, 2019? 2019, from the moment I walked into the vendors hall, like the first table we went to, we found this. Like, I was with Church, I was with Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming, and I think it was Jason who goes like, "Oh, there's one." Like the moment we walked into the hall, the first table we saw, there's one, and that was Beetlejuice on the NES. Your PS5 load PS4 games on the external hard drive. Yeah, so I wanted this game because one of my goals still is, I talked about this in Eugene's E.C. Myers vids stream last night when he was streaming Digger T Rock, that one of my collecting goals, and still is that I want to get all the rare games, no matter what console it's for, because they're my favorite developer. And once I found out that Beetlejuice was developed by Rare, I was like, yes, I need to get that immediately because the games are starting to go up in price a little bit. Even though the game is not known as being good, I was like, it's still going to be a pretty pricey game, so I want to get it before it jumps up, and oh, it did. I was expecting to pay maybe like $50 or $60 for this, but we walked into the vendor's hall, and like Jason goes, there it is, and he like hands it to me, and I look, and the guy was charging like $35 or $40 for it, and I was like, sold American. I don't care. I just opened it up, made sure the manual was in there, and the cartridge didn't look like someone pooped on it, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And I brought it home to test it, and yeah, this game is not good. Like, one of the few rare games that I'm like, yeah, dude, what were you thinking? But it does have awesome music. The graphics are fine. It's just the controls like ass. It's like your character is running on ice the whole game. I cannot control this game to save my life. I have a Michael Keaton fetish. Is there a quick change video game? If you know that movie, point or one internet point to you. What's his name? His name is Chris also. He streams on Twitch. He's part of the Cartridge Club. Something guy. He does... oh, Jesus. I'm not going to go on Twitch and look him up. Shit. I don't remember what his name is. Guitar guy or something, whatever. He does like no death runs, speed runs of games. And I watched him try to speed run this game for like 3 weeks straight. And I was like, you know what? I own the game. I'm not really a fan of it. I will live this game. Like, I will beat this game through watching you beat it. Like, I'll just say that I know what's going on. I know what needs to be done. I'll just watch you do it so I don't have to. Bass guy, that's it. Or bass guy, yes. That's him, Chris. Yeah, I watched him play this for 3 weeks straight on Twitch. And I kept on giving him shit for it, too. I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? This game is not good. He's like, yeah, but I want to be one of the top speedrunners. So I'm like, all right. Better you than me. But not a great game, but I'm not sad that I have it because rare. Here's another repro that I got through Shantendo 64. Like, he'll just randomly, like, he won't show up on Instagram for like 6 months. And then out of nowhere, he's like, oh, here's a bunch of repros I have for sale. If you want them, come and get them. And I usually will buy at least one. What's up? I was just talking about you, talking about the rare games I was talking about wanting to have in your stream last night that I'm trying to collect them all. Because I was just talking about that Beetlejuice, which is not fun. But one that I got from Shantendo is Bioforce Ape. And I knew about this game. It was a Famicom game. It's a Japanese Famicom game. I'm starting to ramble. It's begun, people. It started, but the rambling. We are here. I knew about this game before I bought it. I had seen a bunch of people streaming it and all that. It always looked like a crazy, almost like with that game Werewolf, or what was it called? Was it Werewolf, The Last Warrior or something like that? It kind of reminded me of that. That twin Famicom. Ooh, that's my baby. Ooh. But it's like a side-scrolling platformer beat 'em up. And this is one of the few repros that I have that does not want to work on my Retro Freak, sadly. So that means I got to bust out my NES and then hook the Retro Tink up to it. And it's a process and it sucks, which is why I have the Retro Freak so I don't have to do that kind of stuff because I have a 4K TV and, it does not have the white, yellow, and red cable plug in the back thing. So I got to, do this crazy shit and whatever. Hopefully when I get my Poly Mega, that will resolve the problem. But it always looked cool. I know the music is fantastic, and you can't really tell because the pictures on the back are super dark. But yeah, it is like a side-scrolling platformer beat 'em up. It looked cool, so I had to have it. And the title alone is like, that sounds like a B movie. I need it in my life. A boxed unreleased game? Hell yeah. And I think it has the manual, too. That's why I like buying, like I've said it before, I like buying from Shantendo is because he does the whole shebang. The cartridge is blue, which is kind of rad. And yes, it does have a manual. It's still wrapped, actually. Yep, Bioforce 8 instruction booklet. Whoop, whoop. Like I said, get off your thing. Go to Instagram, look up Shantendo64, give him a like. Maybe he'll start selling some more repros, which are worth it. Every single one that I've gotten from him has been the highest quality. I love it. Love it. Retro. I had the original Retro Tink. I don't want to buy a new one. It's solid. My original one works fine. So here's I don't have many sports games in my collection, but I played the crap out of this with friends back in the day, so I had to have it. I made the mistake. Just burped in the middle of a sentence. That's delightful. Five Guys. Not better the second time. So there was 2 games in this genre of sports that I had back in the day, that I played a lot of back in the day. And I wanted to get one of them at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2018. And I made the wrong choice. The one that I ended up buying, I played it, and I was like, wow, this does not hold up. I should have gotten the other one. And that's what this one is. So we're talking Blades of Steel. One of the only sports that I will play in video game form is hockey. I always thought it was kind of fun and really fast-paced and easy to pick up and play kind of thing. The rules are not too complicated. But Blades of Steel was like the arcadey hockey game. It's really fun, and the fights are awesome. They're hella awesome. You can kind of see one of them happening here. But I play this with friends all the time, but I did not get this at Midwest Gaming Classic. I got the other hockey game, and I don't think that one holds up at all. But this one, once I picked it up again, I got this not too long after that Midwest Gaming Classic. I got a copy of this at my local game store at Video Games Then and Now. Just so I happened to be sitting there when I walked in. I was just like, oh, you knew I was coming! So, yeah, fantastic. Like, when it came to Konami, making sports games are usually pretty good. Because Double Dribble's pretty awesome, too. I need to get a copy of Double Dribble. Oh, look, the game itself just told me right now. Don't forget, Double Dribble's here. From the makers of Double Dribble. Yeah, I need to get a copy of this. And I completely skipped over a game. I put it over here and didn't talk about it. So, Bionic Commando. A friend of mine, my friend Gary, that I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, who had the NES before I did, he got it like at launch. And I would go to his house and watch him like play through a game from beginning to end in one sitting. He did that with this game. And the ending of this game blew my goddamn mind. When you watch Hitler's head just explode. I knew that Nintendo had like a standards and practices thing in place where they were like, yeah, no gore, no suggestive images. And then like I watch him, my friend Gary, play Gogol 13 and there's a sex scene. And then I watch him play this and a guy's head explodes. Yeah, Nintendo doing a great job. Real paying detailed attention to the games that you're putting your logos on. But yeah, Bionic Commando, really cool side-scrolling platformer. Gimmick with this one is that you have like a claw on your arm and you can attach to higher platforms and swing around and climb up and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. To me, this one just is a little too slow paced and it kind of gets frustrating after a while, but that's just me. I do enjoy it. It's just not my favorite Capcom game from this era, but I'm glad that I have it. There's one Capcom game that you'll see probably in the third part of these streams for the NES that I absolutely cannot stand. That everyone seems to like, but we'll get there. We'll talk about it when we get there. Blades last weekend. Hey, yeah. Streaming for over an hour. You're still in the bees. Yeah, like I said, that's why I had to break this thing up into 3 parts because, like, this is the first third of my collection. Like, you can still see the majority of it over here. Yeah, Blades is a fun game. Bees nuts. Is everybody drunk? Here's one. I know Church just played this one recently, maybe, or was it like within the last year? But Blaster Master. This one I could not get enough of when I was a kid. Fantastic music. The graphics I thought were amazing. The play control is pretty cool. I like how it switches things up where you're in the car for some of it, and then you're on foot on like these Legend of Zelda top-down stages. And it was just really, really cool. I like the designs of everything and the weird alien characters like that thing. You know, it's just really fun and really it is really challenging. And the whole thing is over a frog. Just go and buy a new one, kid. Damn. But yeah, I always had a soft spot for this. The only thing that gets me is like until the Blaster Master Zero game started coming out, there were like follow-ups to this and like side calls and stuff like that never seemed to hit the mark the same way that this one did, which was kind of sad because I remember everyone I knew was excited about Blaster Master 2 when that came out for the Genesis, and then they played it and they're like, oh, no. But Zero seems to capture the magic of this game, but it is it's almost like a Metroidvania before, well, this came out after Metroid. But yeah, where you have to like go to certain areas and get an ability to let you unlock a new area kind of thing. It's really cool. I need to play through this. I've never actually beaten it. I should attempt that at some point. Sunsoft, hell yeah. I did have the Game Boy Color Bionic Commando, and yes, I need to get a copy of that again. Thank you for reminding me. Enablers! Sunsoft is back, baby. Yeah, Blaster Master Zero. Love pausing the bombs on bosses. Yeah, I forgot about that spam thing. Oh, shit. All my NES games are CIB. I refuse that. Okay, so like everyone, usually most of my YouTube friends that are gamers do video games monthly. And I refuse to because there's no way they're going to give me boxed games. That's the only way. The only console I don't go complete in box for is the TurboGrafx 16 because it's way too expensive and rare. I would not have any games for that console if I decided to do that. So I go complete in case, and that's as far as I go with that. But other than that, everything else is complete in box, every console. Which is why I'm running out of room. But Blaster Master, yes, hell yeah. Next up is a game that I didn't understand when my friend Gary got it, and I was watching him play, and I was like, what is going on in this game? Like, why? But then I started playing it, and I was like, okay, it just takes a little bit of getting used to with the mechanics of it. And that's a boy and his blob. Got a really cool remake by Way Forward on the Wii. So it's a puzzle platformer where you play as this kid who has like a blob best friend, an alien, and then you feed him different color or different flavored jelly beans, and each flavor will turn him into the blob into something else. And it's usually a tool that you can use to complete a task or advance in the mission. Like one will turn him into an umbrella, and when you hold that, you can actually like glide down deep drops and not die. One will turn him into a trampoline, one will turn him into a bowling ball, stuff like that. And like I was watching my friend play it, and I was just kind of like, what? I don't why. But like I said, then eventually I got my own copy and I was playing it, and I was like, yeah, it just takes a little while to get used to the mechanics of it. Once you do, it's okay. But once you get to the alien planet, F this game. It gets so crazy. But I'm not sad that I have it. I actually have the sequel to it too. Did you know there was a sequel? What's up, Happy Beard? How's it going? Welcome. Too many S games to use VGM to collect it. Yeah, like when it comes to like Captain Algebra saying I want complete in box Genesis games, those are way more common and cheaper than getting complete in box like NES, Super Nintendo, that kind of thing. But yeah, I would just rather buy them on my own when I can. Hey, yo. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, dude. Next up is another licensed game that I did not have any interest in playing back in the day. I love the movie, don't get me wrong, but the game always looked kind of chintzy and cheap and like another one of those games that was unrelated, and then whatever company got the rights to the license and then just changed a couple of things to make it a game that could resemble the movie, but it doesn't. But then I played it, weirdly enough, at my old job on a computer in the break room on Facebook. There used to be a Facebook, like a way to game on Facebook. Like, you can play like Farmville and that kind of thing. There was like a Nintendo emulator on Facebook at one point, probably in like 2007, maybe 2007, 2008. And I used to go on my break or my lunch and play NES games on the computers in the break room. And I played this game on that on my lunch breaks. And it was really fun. Excuse me. And that's Bram Stoker's Dracula. You kind of see my reflection in the computer. And it's a side-scrolling platformer action game. And there's like a couple of mechanics that remind me of like Mario Brothers. There's like question boxes that you can break open to get items and stuff. But it's a surprisingly solid platformer. It doesn't really... I mean, it does have stuff from the movies in it, but it does feel like it's an unrelated game that just got like changed over. But it works. And the funny thing is, it was released by Sony ImageSoft, and they owned the rights anyway, so maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Don't ignore me. I'm rambling again. I think this is probably the best of the Dracula or the Bram Stoker's Dracula games that are out there. There are decent ones. There's a couple that are like, especially the Sega CD one. But the NES one is, like I said, surprisingly solid. I had a good time playing this to the point that, like when I was playing it at my job, like when it came back into collecting, I was just kind of like, you know what? I do want to own a cartridge of that. So let's go check out the eBays and see if I can find it. Well, the thing was, when I was coming back from Mo Game Con a few weekends back, Captain Algebra and I stopped at like this random game store on the way back in like Bumblefuck Illinois, and it was like the junkiest store you've ever seen. It was just stuff thrown everywhere. Nothing was organized, but they had like 4 or 5 like in-box TurboGrafx 16 games sealed in their little case where the register was, and I was like, of all the things in this store for you to have, those? Whatevs. Like, I rarely ever see them in box, and at this place, okay, sure. Next up is Bubble Bobble arcade game port. Absolutely love this game. It's a puzzle platformer type game. Plays these 2 little adorable dragons, or I think they're supposed to be dragons, and you shoot bubbles at the enemies, and it captures the enemy, and then you touch the enemy, kind of like Mario, the original Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers, Mario Brothers kind of thing, where like you knock an enemy upside down, then you run past them, and you knock them off the platform, and they die, kind of thing. You blow a bubble around them, and then you hit them, and they die, kind of thing. And you need to do that to every enemy on the screen, and move on to the next one. And there's like 100 and some levels in this. It's really, really fun, and it's just really easy to pick up and play. It's like a real casual game to me, which when I played this in the arcade, that was one of the reasons why. I'd be like, I don't even have to think about it. It's really super easy to figure out and just, have a good time. So I was super stoked to get a copy of this. I do want a copy of part 2, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. No Bomberman? Nope, sorry, no Bomberman yet. Oh, is Pat still in here? Pat knows all about the Bomberman. Saturn Bomberman is super fun when you got 6 players. Next is, okay, so I owned this game back in the day. I picked this up when I was working at Kmart. We got this in at the Kmart I was working at, and I picked it up on my lunch break one day after I got paid. And I was super pissed off when I had sold it back in the day when I realized it was like one of these really sought after games, like modern day. So I figured I was never going to be able to own a copy of this again. Everyone whines about how hard it is. I'm not the greatest gamer. Like when it comes to like the retro, like when it comes to modern stuff, I'm good, but like the retro stuff, like I've never been great at them. But I beat this game, even though everyone says it's super hard, and I was just like, what is that? I don't know what you're talking about. I had no problems beating it on my own. We're talking Bucky O'Hare. I had this. I got this at the Kmart I worked at, and I absolutely loved it. To the point where I went to like that KB Toys that I was talking about, where I used to get all the clearance games with and I'd buy them with my lunch money. And one day I went there, and they didn't really have any games that I wanted on clearance. And I just happened to glance down at like these buckets they used to put in front of the register where they had like clearance toys and stuff. At one point they had clearance Earthbounds in there up to my neck for $5. I should have bought every single one of them and threw them in my closet for 30 years. They had like the Bucky O'Hare action figures in there. I guess the toy line did not do very well. The cartoon didn't do very well either, from what I understand. And they had like all the Bucky O'Hare toys, and I was like, I love that game. I want those toys. So I bought one of each one, and they're like $2 each or something like that. But the game is super fun. It's like playing Mega Man, I guess. You have a bunch of levels, and you get to pick which level you want to go to, kind of like Mega Man. You get to pick which enemy you want to go after. And you have multiple characters that you can switch between, and each of them has like their own special abilities that help you out through the levels. And it is super fun. The graphics are fantastic. The music is amazing. The play control is great. Konami could not do any wrong back in the day. Even when they picked up a weird license like this, I think they were just trying to ride the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles craze, and it just didn't work out, or whatever company made the toys and all that, and the cartoon. But the game itself is fantastic, and I love the arcade game, too. The arcade game is amazing. But, yeah, I never thought I'd own this again. Went to my local video game store, the retro one, Video Games Then and Now, and they had a copy of this in their case, and it was not so expensive that I would have had to have sold a kidney in order to get it. But I was selling stuff to them that day that I didn't want anymore. And I ended up, I think, paying like $50 out of pocket for this. But I was not sad about it. So I am super stoked that I have this back in my collect again and in this form. And it is completely complete. And it is super nice. Not a mark on this box. The Earthbounds, that pissed me off when I realized that when I got back into collecting in the early 2010s, that Earthbound was like, at that point in time, I think it was worth like $800. And I was like, man, I remember going to KB Toys and there was like that gigantic basket filled to the brim with Earthbounds that never sold. I'm like, I should have bought every single one of those bitches if I knew about it back then, If I knew then what I know now. Especially now when they're going for like $1,300. What the hell? Yeah, the IP kind of like went tits up pretty quickly, if I remember correctly. Next up is Bry Fighter. Never played this back in the day, but I always wanted to because it looked kind of cool. It looked kind of like, because I remember I played Forgotten Worlds, and I was like, that's a really cool idea. The way like you're flying and you can like turn and shoot in every direction. And then I found out that this was basically like a version of that, where you're flying around with like a dude with a jetpack and you're just taking out enemies. So it's essentially a shmup, but like a weird take on the shmup, and it is super fun. So I got this off of eBay like dirt cheap, and once I realized that it was a Taxan joint, and I loved, like, Taxan is like one of my other favorite publishers on the NES, because they just released a bunch of like games that just slipped under the radar that are pretty fantastic most of the times. So like Bry Fighter is one that I had to get, and I was super glad that I did. It is a lot of fun. It is difficult. Well, all NES games are difficult, but you know. You have to go back, Marty! You're like, yeah, right about what, Pat? So next up is one of my all-time favorite arcade games from when I was a kid, and that's the Burger Time. So I picked this up from this other retro store that I discovered like a year and a half ago, maybe, called, I think it's Play Me Retro, I think it's called. Yeah, Play Me Retro, I think. And everything there is like eBay prices. You'll go up to the register if something doesn't have a price tag on it and ask them what something costs, and they'll be like, hang on a second. They'll go on eBay and check. It's really ridiculous. Space Marauder? Ooh. Oh, yeah, there was a Game Boy game on. Yeah, I remember the Game Boy game. And this was the only real game that I found there that was a decent enough price where I was like, I'll pick it up because I absolutely love the arcade game. I have this on the Atari 2600. It's not a great port, but I mean, it is Burger Time. It's just not great. Only thing was, I brought this home and it didn't work. Tried cleaning it, didn't work. Brought it back. This place is like a good 40-minute drive for me. So I drive all the way out there, and I'm like, okay, dude, this game doesn't work. I want to swap it for something else. And the guy's like, well, give me a minute. I got some Brasso here. I'll check this thing out. So he like took it apart, cleaned it with the Brasso, put it back together, popped it in his NES. He's like, look, it's working just fine. I'm like, all right, dude, but if I come back again and it's not working on my console, then like we're going to have words. And I brought it home, and it worked. I was happy. And it's a pretty decent port. I really like it. I played it for like a good 2 hours that day. It's just simple platforming type of thing where there's parts of a burger that you need to assemble at the bottom of the screen, all strewn throughout the level. You got to run over the parts in order to get them to drop down a level. Once you have everything dropped down to the plate at the bottom and you make a burger, you move on to the next set of stages, and the configuration of the stages gets nutty. Super fun. Can't get wrong here. I just like the fact that your main weapon in this game against the giant hot dogs and eggs that are chasing you around is a pepper shaker. Okay. eBay prices and Brasso. What a winner. Yeah, pricing at eBay. Yeah, that's why I don't go to that. I don't go to that store unless I'm like, if I really want to, like the cool thing about that store is they do have a ton of awesome stuff. It's just the prices suck. If I'm looking for something like, I'm still looking for a copy of Skull Monkeys on the PS1, and I know they have at least 2 of them there because I've seen them, but they want like over $100 for them. I can't imagine what they're going for now. So it's like the option is there, but I choose not to do it. Yeah, I love, like, if I had more room in this apartment, I would definitely buy that arcade 1-up that has Burger Time in it because I just love it that much. Next up is another repro that I got from Shantendo 64. This one, I think, is based, or it's a port from a Famicom Disk System game, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's a Burnin' Twinbee. I don't think this is Stinger. I think this is a different game in the series because those are all Twinbee games, if I remember correctly. But like I think this one came from a Famicom Disk System game. And it's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. It's a shoot-'em-up, but it's adorbs. It's fine. Like the thing is, if a power-up shows up, it's like a bell. And if you keep shooting the bell, it'll keep like bouncing around and changing colors. And eventually like it'll turn into different types of power-ups as you shoot it. It's kind of cool. But it's super easy. It's like beyond easy. It's like made for little kids. I just think it's kind of funny that some of the enemies on the front here look like giant evil coat hangers. But he was selling this. I think Shantendo was selling this for like $40, and I was like, sure, why not? So I picked it up. I like a good shmup that I can actually beat. What's up, Cap? Yeah. Next up, found this at there's a chain of resale shops near me called The Exchange. I'm gonna need to go and get another iced tea at some point. I went there one day. Their prices are like good on some things and craptastic on others. And this one day they just surprised me. I walk in and they have like a case when you first walk in. It's like right in front of you where they usually put like the expensive games and movies and whatever. So like, it's like a talking point. So you walk in, you're like, ooh. And they had this in the case, and it was not obscenely priced. And I jumped on it before anyone else did. And it's Captain America and the Avengers. This is not a port of the arcade game that is on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Do not buy the Super Nintendo version. You'll want to kill somebody after you play that because it is so bad. This one is more reminiscent of like the G.I. Joe games on the NES because it's made by the same developer of those games. And you get to play as either, just like in the arcade game, you get to play as either Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, or Vision. And it's a side-scrolling platformer / beat 'em up. And it is super fun. It surprises the hell out of me how much, even though this isn't based on the arcade game, which I do enjoy, that arcade game is pretty awesome. That this, like, even though it's nothing like it, is super fun. I enjoyed the crap out of it, and I only paid, like, I think $60 for this, and it was going for, like, way over 100 at that point in time. So I was super stoked. The only thing is it's got a little bit of, like, damage in the front, like somebody sat on it up here, but it's not, like, terrible. It's like a couple of creases. Whatevs. Super fun. If you like the G.I. Joe games on the NES, you'll love this, because it's almost the exact same gameplay style. Here's a rare game that I did not know was a rare game until I did some research and found out that it was a rare game. And that is Captain Skyhawk. Never played this back in the day. The artwork just never really did anything for me. So I was like, I'm good. To me, it sounded like, because I'd played Top Gun, and I did not like Top Gun. I like Top Gun a little bit now, but back then I played it that one time. I rented it, and I was like, I can't land these planes to save my life. F this game. So I was like, anything that involved like an airplane kind of thing, I was like, no. Didn't know that this game is about airplanes in outer space. It's kind of like a shmup where it's a vertically scrolling shmup, but it's like in a 3/4 kind of view. And then there's like areas where you have to like dock in a space station and like do your rotation, make it work to get inside the docking bay here. You got to like match up your rotation with your ship and the station. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it's decent. It's not the greatest thing ever. Like I said, Rare does not like not every. I'm not under the assumption that Rare makes every single game that they earn. See, I can't talk. I'm not under the assumption that every single game Rare makes is amazing. They do have some stinkers. This is just not one of the best. It's not bad. It's just not awesome. But it is worth the playing. Peter! It is wicked hard. Wicked hard. It's in the yard, not too far from the car. And this is what happens when I talk too much. I'll start getting flummy, too. Picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2018. It's a Castellian. This was one that I always wanted to rent because I had seen, or I saw a picture. I keep on saying I had seen, even though that's kind of bad grammar. I saw this in the video game magazines at the time, and I thought it looked pretty awesome. And I heard about these cool rotation effects that they had going on in it. Just never found a place that had a copy of it. So when I found this pretty cheap at the Midwest Gaming Classic, I jumped on it. And it is like a platformer where you're ascending these towers, but you're doing it like around the tower. And as you move around the perimeter of it, the tower like spins. And it's really cool the way the NES handles that. It's really visually impressive. The platforming, on the other hand, is not the greatest. It is kind of stupid, and some stuff is like really unfair, and they put some enemies in your way that you cannot avoid touching, and it's just kind of like, you speak the good English. Yes. It's fun for a little bit, but then it gets really frustrating really quickly. My mouth don't move fast as my brain. We got the Castlevania games. I watched my buddy Gary beat this in one sitting. Drove me nuts. I was like, yes, I love horror. It's freaking awesome. This game is freaking awesome. Can we play something else that's 2-player? Just after a while, just going over to his house and just sitting on the floor and watching him playing a game. It does wear on your nerves after a while. And you're like, you know what? Can I play something maybe? But Castlevania was one of those games where I was like, I need a Nintendo right damn now. Mom and Dad, get off your ass, break out that credit card, buy us a Nintendo so I can play this freaking game. It was this and Contra. I was like, I need this thing right now. And they're like, nah, you're good. You got an Atari, you're okay. But once I did get my NES, this was one of those clearance games that I ended up picking up because I absolutely had to have it in my life, and I played the shit out of it. And it's a really awesome side-scrolling, I guess you would call it like a beat-em-up, where you're playing as a dude with a whip, going around trying to get to Dracula so you can whoop his ass. In between you starting the game and beating Dracula, you fight all these other characters from other literature sources like Frankenstein and the Grim Reaper and all that kind of shit. It's pretty awesome, though. I absolutely love it. Medusa from, Greek literature. But it's great. It's classic. Great music. The soundtrack is iconic. The graphics are great. It controls fantastically. And then the sequel, Part 2, Simon's Quest, gets a lot of shit. I don't think it deserves it. Like, at all. Just because it's different does not mean it's bad, people. This is why I really appreciated the NES. When it comes to sequels nowadays, it's usually like, here's more of the same. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved Horizon Forbidden West. But let's be completely honest, they didn't do much to change the formula. They didn't do anything big. It is basically, if you've played the first game, you've played the second game, it's just now the story is completely different. The thing about NES games was the developers were not afraid to change it up a little bit. Like you had Super Mario Brothers, and then you look at what ended up becoming Super Mario Brothers 2, completely different. You look at Legend of Zelda, and then you look at Zelda 2, completely different. Castlevania 1, Castlevania 2, absolutely completely different. Same sort of mechanics, but it does not play the same way. So this one's more of an adventure game, light RPG elements, I guess. But yeah, you're picking up relics and you're trying to find Dracula's bones so you can throw him into a fire, then whip his ass all over again. But yeah, there's a ton of exploration in this. It's like you have to do stuff linear, like in a row. Like you have to do it in a specific order, but sometimes you really don't. It's weird the way it's set up. It has a little bit of Metroidvania kind of stuff going on in it too, and but some of the shit in this game is cryptic as hell. Like, if I didn't have the issue of Nintendo Power that dealt with this game specifically, I never would have known about that whole hold that one gem, go and kneel in this corner, and this tornado is going to come and pick you up. I never would have thought of that. Oh yeah, and Simon's Quest has, between these two games, Simon's Quest has the better soundtrack. Don't get me wrong, this one is a banger, but this one is banger times 2. It is fantastic. And let's not forget the graphics and the controls are still fantastic in this game. So I really appreciate this game for not just retreading the formula from the first game and doing something completely new and different. So hails to the yeah. Even though some of the things in that game didn't get pulled off the right way or completely ways that made sense, I still appreciate it for what it is. And then Castlevania 3 went back to what the first one was, just made multiple paths and some new characters. Here's one that, if you've seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, you'll get the joke. But we got the Clash of Demon Head. This is another one of those games I really wanted to play back in the day because I saw articles and ads for it in magazines at the time. And I thought just the name itself, I was like, yes, that is so metal. Never rented it or anything. My friend Gary didn't even get this and play it in front of me. So the first time I played it was when I picked up a copy, probably in 2014. And the game's pretty awesome. It has like multiple paths you can take. You don't have to do it in anything in a specific order, kind of like Mega Man. You can pick which order you want to do levels. And it's a side-scrolling platformer with some RPG elements to it. It is really fantastic. Excuse me. Burpees. I need to spend more time playing this, though, because I played it for maybe like an hour when the copy first showed up in the mail from eBay, and just to make sure it worked. And I played it for a little while ago, and I was like, this is actually kind of cool. I really like this. I need to put more time into it. I'm going to put this on my backlog roulette for the Super Enabler Brothers podcast. But it's a fantastic game. And it was apparently so popular that, was it Brian O'Malley that did the, what's it called? Scott Pilgrim vs. the World comic book, named a band the Clash of Demon Head. I need to replace this this protector. This protector is broken. So there's another rare joint. I do have Castlevania 3. I just remember I showed it off in the Famicom games last week. I have the Famicom version of Part 3 because of the extra sound chips that the NES version does not have. So there you go. So we have Cobra Triangle. This is kind of like if you've played RC Pro-Am, you've played this, except this one, instead of RC or remote control cars, these are boats. And it is super fun. It is an isometric like racing game. There's obstacles to and enemies to avoid. You can shoot them down. It's super fun. Really fast paced. Hard as hell sometimes. But like I said, if you like RC Pro-Am, you've played this. Just different setting. Amazing. There's another winner. And I didn't want to play that back in the day because of the name. It was stupid, like Phalanx. The reason I didn't want to play Phalanx on the Super Nintendo when I was a kid was because the box art was stupid. It was an old man playing a banjo, and like the ship from the last Starfighter's flying in the sky behind him, and the old man's like, "What?" I was like, "That's stupid. I'm not playing that game. That artwork is dumb." The name of this one just turned me up because it did not say anything about what the game was. Luminaire Boat Duel. If it was called that, I would have played it. This one, I'm surprised that Capcom didn't get sued over. Because it's surprising how I had never played this back in the day. It's Codename Viper. Like I said, never played this back in the day. Picked this up off of eBay because it was super cheap. And I was like, "Oh, Capcom game, complete in the box. Give it to me." And when it showed up, I played it and I was like, "Wow, this is Rolling Thunder. A complete and utter everything about it ripoff of Rolling Thunder." And I love me some Rolling Thunder. I played the crap out of that arcade game at this old resort we used to go to. I don't even call it a resort. It was like a pit with an arcade. It's like stupid, shitty cabins that you could hear through the walls. But yeah, when I played this, I was just like, wow, seriously? I guess this is a thing. Nothing ever came of it, though. But it plays and looks and sounds just like Rolling Thunder. Even the way the character jumps, you can see it right there. He jumps just like the character in Rolling Thunder. But it's not bad. It's good. I love Rolling Thunder, so this is just more Rolling Thunder for me. If you like Rolling Thunder, do yourself a favor and pick this game up. It's really cool. Another Capcom game. We got Commando. This is like one of the early Capcom games based on an arcade game, which I never played. But Commando is a vertically scrolling run and gun, I guess. Pretty decent. Only thing is, these old Capcom games used to come with a hang tab on the box. I got really lucky with all these old Capcom games because every single one of them that I have was never punched. Like never even, the tab itself was never even pulled up. I got so lucky on these. I don't understand why Capcom thought that was a good idea. But whatever. It's decent. Next up is, so I have a story about this. Makes my friend Gary look like an ass, but whatever. So Conquest of the Crystal Palace. So we went, my friend Gary and I, he had gotten, like he had a job. I think he had a job long before I did. He was working at like a grocery store chain out here called Duel. And he wanted to buy this game. And it was the only place that had it was the video game store. It wasn't the KB Toys. There was a Software Etc. in that mall too. They never really clears the games out, which is why I always went to the KB Toys instead. But the Software Etc. in the mall had a copy of this game. So we ended up taking a bus to the local mall, went in there to play this, or to get this game. He got a copy of it. And as we go back to the bus stop to take us back to his place, there are these kids waiting for the bus also who are probably 3 or 4 years older than us, and they look like jocks. And for whatever reason, they thought it was fun to just start picking on people they'd never met before. So they start picking on me and my friend Gary. And me, when I get stressed out for stuff like that, I start saying shit that I should not be saying. Like, at least back then I did. I don't do that anymore. I'm able to control myself. But back then, I would have said something like, "Go fuck your mother," and I would probably got our asses beat. Because I did that a couple of times and we had to run away. So these jocks are like picking on us at this bus stop, and Gary saw my face. He saw me like ready to say something stupid. So Gary goes, "Knock it off. My friend can't hear you. He's deaf." And I went like, okay. So they stopped picking on us and they looked at me and they're like, "You can't hear anything I say?" And I kind of looked at him. I go, "What?" And they stopped picking on us and walked away. Who knew? But anyway, Conquest of the Crystal Palace. All that for this game. Yeah, it's a side-scrolling platformer, and it's pretty awesome. It has a fantastic soundtrack. The graphics are, like, the bosses are huge. It's really, really fun. I need to spend more time playing it because when we got back to his place after that, I think he played it for like 45 minutes, and I was like, I got to go. So I had to leave, and I didn't get to play it until I bought my own copy of it. So I had not spent a whole lot of time playing it, but I do enjoy what I have played when I booted this up when I first got it to make sure that the cartridge worked and all that. It is super fun. I just need to spend more time playing it. No, I was making it look like I was reading his lips, but I didn't read his, because he goes like, "You can't hear me?" And I leaned in a little bit to look at his mouth, and I think he thought that I didn't read his lips the right way, so I went, "What?" It worked. Like, they left. Well, they didn't leave. They like walked away from us, but they were still waiting for the bus. They were like hanging on the other side of the bus stop. So Castlevania was the game that I kept on whining to my parents about, that, we needed, an NES so we could play Castlevania. And the other game we needed was Contra. And this was one of the games that we got with our NES that Christmas. My parents went in with my grandparents on my mother's side to buy the NES and a couple of games. And this was one of the games we got along with the NES. And I absolutely love it. I played through this, I don't know how many times. The thing that got me was, by the time we did get our own copy of it, I'd already beaten this game at my friend Gary's place because we played it. Now, I watched him beat it, and then we did like a co-op game, and we beat it together, and then I beat it on my own. I just make it sound like I'm whacking off or something like that the whole time, don't I? Wordplay. But like, I didn't really need this at that point, but it is so fun that I didn't mind, and I played through this a lot back in the day. Never was able to do it without the Contra code, though. I can never do it with just starting off with the 3 lives. But the Contra code, whatever. I still beat it all the time. Super awesome side-scrolling run and gun, and there's like those into the screen sections too when you're inside the bases. Graphics, music, controls are absolute perfection. All-time classic, one of my all-time favorite games. Beaten only by the sequels. Gary. Yeah, it's better than me saying my ex. Like I said, when it came to the NES, that was where my friend Gary was always, like, he had more stuff than I always did. I wouldn't know half the stuff I know about the NES if it wasn't for him. So you're going to hear, when I'm talking about NES games, you're going to hear his name a lot. Other consoles, not so much. Here we have Crystalis. Or Crystalis. I always called it Crystalis because it sounds like chrysalis. So I wouldn't really call this an RPG. It's like an adventure game like Legend of Zelda. It's top down, kind of 3/4 view. Super awesome music. The overworld music in the first area of the game, holy shit. Make that your ringtone, people. It is fantastic and catchy as hell. I'm thinking about it right now. I'm probably like, I'm going to be singing this tomorrow at work. But yeah, it's super fun, really creative. They did a remake of this on the Game Boy Color, I do believe, and it's on the virtual, what do they call it? The NES thing that's on the Switch, the virtual console or whatever. It's fantastic. I've never beaten this though. I need to, you know what? So I'm playing through Chorus right now on my PS5. Then I'm going to play through Valfaris on the PS4. Maybe I should just play through this afterwards and get a retro game in there every once in a while. I used to play through Contra blindfolded with the code. Jesus, they released the Game Boy Color version. I need to get that just because I like that. I like playing that game so much. I would go for a portable version of it. Next up, whoo! This is a piece of shit. Oh my god! I spit on thee. So I love this movie, which is why I wanted the game. Should have known better by the name of the company that developed it and released it. So like I always say, everyone complains about LJN. Put that shit out of your mind. The company you need to be worried about is Ocean. Ocean's the one making the doo-doo licensed games. And Darkman, love the movie. Absolutely love this movie. the game is garbage. I don't understand why every single game that Ocean makes on the NES, the characters control like they're walking on ice. Every single game. RoboCop, this, one of the Addams Family game, like the characters just slide all over the goddamn place, and it is impossible to control. The thing about this one is you don't know what the hell platforms you can actually use. So you play as Darkman in the game. In the movie, Liam Neeson gets burned, has developed this technology where he can make fake skin, so he can impersonate anybody by duplicating their face with this fake skin. The only thing is it only lasts for a certain amount of time before it decays. So he can only play a person for like an hour and a half, I think, before it melts. So you can disguise yourself, and you do play through all these different levels as a different villain character that you have duplicated at one point. The only thing is, like, they all slip and slide all over the place. You can't tell what you can jump on, what's a platform, what isn't. You're always falling to your freaking death. It is not fun. And I bought this because I was like, yes, the Darkman game. I love that movie. I need to have that game. And then when it showed up, I was like, I should have looked at that picture better in the eBay listing. I didn't realize this was an Ocean game. Shit, I made a mistake. And yeah, this game is garbage. It is so shitty. Just like most Ocean games. Buyer beware. Next up is, okay, so there's a story behind this one. Never played this back in the day. So I went to a very out-of-the-way half-price books. Very out of the way. And I went there to see what they had in the way of games. Turns out this place did not have a lot. The store doesn't even exist anymore. The store has been closed for like 5 years. But I found out that day that they don't usually have a lot of games or even movies in that, for that matter. And I was really disappointed. But every half-price books in the game section has like a case, like a glass case, where they put the expensive stuff they don't want people handling. And this game was in the case. And I was like, oh, I need that. It's a Capcom game. I want to get all those Capcom games. And I think the license is pretty cool. I never really watched the cartoon that this is based on. But the license, I remember a lot of my friends were really into it. I was like, I need to get that. I really do. It was $100. And I was like, shit. So went home. I told the person at the register, the cool thing about half-price books is you can tell them to put anything on hold, and they'll usually hold it for about a week. If you don't show up, they'll put it back on the shelf. No big deal. But I was like, I went to one of the people at the register, and I was like, can I get a game out of this case, but can you hold it for me for a couple of days? Because I need to get some stuff together that I want to get rid of. And they were like, yeah, sure. So they put this aside. I went home. I had a stack of stuff I already wanted to sell. I sold a whole bunch of movies, a whole bunch of like loose games that I didn't want that I needed to get rid of anyway. Brought them there and basically got enough money to cover this. And that's Darkwing Duck. And like I said, it was $100, and I didn't really notice it upon buying it, but when you look closely, it looks like a great copy. The box itself is in great shape. The cart looks great. But there's like some writing on the box. You can kind of see it where my index finger is right there. Like some kid wrote his name there, and there's another one somewhere else on here. Oh, down here. You can kind of see right there. Like it's like someone was using this box as their desk, and they were using it to write on, and like it bled through. There's another one up here. It's like marker, and you can see like they even crossed it out. Whatever kid owned this, it was like, dude, get a desk. Don't use your games as your desk. But like I said, I had never played this before. So an ocean of crappy games, you know it. Exactamundo, as Wesley Snipes would say in Demolition Man. It's a beautiful box. It is until you see the writing. But, so like I said, I hadn't played this game before, and I was like, ooh, got to have the Capcom games, and it's a cool license. I remember being, pretty popular back in the day, and I played it. I was like, this is the worst Mega Man clone I've ever played. I did not enjoy it at all. Like, really. I was playing it, and I beat like 2 or 3 of the stages, and I was just like, I am not enjoying myself. I'm like, I wasted $100. Well, technically, I didn't fork a lot of cash up for it. I only paid like $10, I think, out of pocket. But, I sold all that stuff, and this is what I got in return or exchange. I'm like, shit. So, like, everyone makes a big deal. Like, everyone seems to like it except for me. I just thought it was very derivative of a Mega Man game, and it didn't feel like I wasn't having fun playing it. So I kept it because it's an expensive game, and I don't want to get rid of it. Whatevs. But I haven't, so there's that. Oh, shit, I almost knocked some crap over. Don't do that. This is one of those rare times where half-price books is your friend, because this thing is immaculate. went to the half-price books that I always go to that's right by my work, and in the game case, the expensive game case, even though this wasn't expensive, they had a copy of Dash Galaxy in the Alien Asylum for its completed box for $5. And I've never played this before, but for $5, yes, I will buy a completed box NES game. I don't care what it is. I would have bought like a football game. I would have bought Goal, the soccer game, Goal for $5. But yeah, it's a side-scrolling, like a platformer. I don't know what kind of. I think it's like a shooter, it's like a run and gun or something. I don't know. I played it when I first got it to make sure the cart worked. It worked. I didn't go any further. And I was like, I'll come back to you later, and I just never have. Your Dash Galaxy interplanetary superhero. You fought your way out of tight spots 100 times and a dozen solar systems, but you haven't seen tight until you accidentally land in the mental ward of the universe, the Alien Asylum. You haven't seen tight. Okay. But yeah, the character looks like Buck Rogers. The artwork is pretty cool on the front, but I need to put some time into this. It seemed okay. Here's another brand new game for the NES, another one that I absolutely had to have. I got this through Limited Run also, and I want to say this was through, what is it? Collector Vision Games or something? It's weird. Okay, so it's called Dead Tomb, a temporal adventure. And for whatever reason, it's got like the Acclaim logo on it. I don't know if this was like a half completed or a partially completed game that got abandoned or whatever, and that Acclaim owned the rights to it, and then someone finished it and put it out in carts. But I don't know. Gray cartridge, both English and French language included, full color box and manual, detailed map, NTSC and PAL compatible, music and special effects done with Famitracker, 100% made in assembly, a love letter to Temporal Inc. So I know Temporal Inc. was like a game that was available on like the PCs or something like that, or the Mac, and this is like an homage to that. I knew that much, but it looks like a point-and-click adventure. And I love a good point-and-click adventure. I used to play the crap out of Maniac Mansion and stuff like that. Even like Shadowgate on the NES and Deja Vu. Hell yeah. But I have not opened this. Should I? Nah. I'll open it when I play it. But this was like $50 or something like that on Limited Run, so I picked it up. I could have sworn that Collector Vision Games like released this, and Limited Run released it for them. Whatever. I'll play that eventually. Here's another piece of shit. The only reason it's in my collection is nostalgia for a shitty game. I talked about this a couple of times. I talked about it in a video about bad games. And that's Deadly Towers. This game is a hunk of flaming shit, as Elvis Presley would have probably said if he was a gamer. So he was a friend of mine, but my mom and his mother were really close friends, and I was like a passing acquaintance with her son, Jeff. And my mom went over to this woman's house one day, brought me along. Jeff was there playing the NES, and he was like, "Hey, come over here. We'll play NES together." And he had like 5 or 6 NES games on the carpet, just like laying out by the NES. And I kept looking at this one because at the time I had just seen the 2 Conan movies, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, and I thought they were great. And I saw the artwork for this, and I was like, Conan the Barbarian, the game, let's do it! So he's like, you're not going to like it. And I was like, I don't care. I need to play this game. I need to play it. You need to pop it in so I can try it. He's like, you're not going to like it. I was like, I don't care. Shut your mouth. I'm the guest. Pop that shit in. I remember I was being a complete dick about it too. And he was just kind of like, all right, you asked for it. So he pops it in, and I played it. And within like 30 seconds, I was like, oh, you were right. Oh, no, my eyes, they're bleeding. What? No, stop. It looks like shit. It plays like shit. It is confusing. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Stuff comes out of nowhere to hit you, just like random. Also, this fireball just comes out of nowhere and hits you. It's dumb. It is absolutely one of the worst games I've ever played. But I own it because of nostalgia of that moment where I went to Jeff's place and like begged him to let me play. And then he was like, seriously, when I told him to turn it off, we can go back to playing Mario Brothers. He was like, I told you. Like, I told you. Just listen to me. Wouldn't waste your time. It is one of the worst NES games I think I've played. And there's some stinkers on the NES, but that one is just like... So I was just talking about Shadowgate and that Dead Tomb game being like an adventure game, an old point and click. Yeah, we got that deja vu action. I love this game. I never played this one back in the day. I didn't play this until recently when I got back into collecting. And I want to get all of these point and click adventure games from Kemco Sieca. So I have Shadowgate. Spoiler, you'll see it later. I have this, and I still need to get the Uninvited. The Uninvited is the real expensive one of the three. But it is like an old school computer. I think these are all based off of Macintosh games. I know Shadowgate was a Mac game. But yeah, it's like an old point-and-click adventure game. You have like a little window that shows you what you're looking at, and you can interact with certain things there. You use like certain commands that are underneath the window down here. You'll pick that, and you like hit something or open something, and then click on something in the picture, and you might open a drawer or look in someone's pocket kind of thing. Super fun, really challenging. It's all about trial and error with these games, and I'm okay with that because, like I said, replay value. Shadowgate, I used to be able to beat, like once I memorized the way Shadowgate worked, I beat that shit in like one sitting. We got Demon Sword, which is a side-scrolling action game that is like an unofficial... what are words? It's like an unofficial sequel to The Legend of Kage, which is another NES game, because this looks and plays exactly like Legend of Kage. So it's like a side-scrolling, like hack and slash kind of thing, but you can jump 13 stories. It's super fun. I love Legend of Kage. That was one of those games I played at my buddy Gary's house. But this one is essentially like the same type of game. The graphics and everything, like I said, look exactly and play exactly the same. And it's really fun. I like it a lot. I got this dirt cheap off of eBay like back in 2013. I think I paid like $7.50 for this. Back when NES games were cheap. Yep, I told you it was going to take a while. I'm nearing the end though, so only got maybe like 10 minutes left. So now we got those Double Dragons. And the funny thing about them Double Dragons is I have all three. So here we got the OG. And this is one of those games that we got with our NES. I think we got Double Dragon and Contra at the same time for Christmas that year. And my brother, I think, ended up playing this more than I did. I didn't really like the way the game controlled. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, it felt like I needed more buttons. And, like, the combinations of, like, hitting the two buttons at the same time kind of thing. Because I have small hands. And it was really hard for me to do certain things with the controller that this game was asking of you. And plus, it was really hard. So, I never really played the arcade version of this. I mean, I think I played it maybe once or twice. But not enough, so I was like familiar with the game and was able to compare it to this and be like, oh my god, this is such garbage. I just didn't really like this game that much to begin with. But it's a classic. It's considered a classic, so I felt I needed to have it. But then you've got Double Dragon 2, which I think is way better. Way, way better. Same concept. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but the controls are better. The jumping is better. The way the moves progress, like the moves that you end up being able to do progress, is a hell of a lot easier. It makes more sense. It's just more of a fun game to play. Yeah, like everything about it was just bumped up a notch and made it so much better. And then you got part 3, the Sacred Stones. Still have not played this. I know people do not like it. I know this is considered the weakest of the 3, which is one of the reasons why I've never actually booted this up. Well, I booted it up to make sure it worked when I bought it, but I've never actually put any time into playing it. I probably should, since I spent a decent amount of money on this one, because this one is the most expensive of the 3. But what are you going to do? So, Double Dragon 3, the Sacred Stones. It looks decent, but from what I understand, it plays like doo-doo. Next up is Dr. Mario. So Tetris was all the rage back in the late 80s and early 90s. Still kind of is, but like if you were not alive during that time period in gaming, like the way people are obsessed with Pokemon, people were obsessed with Tetris. You have no clue. It was nuts. Like everyone in school was like Tetris, Tetris, Tetris all the time, all the time, all the time. I even had like Tetris on like a 3.5-inch floppy disk that I would use on one of the computers in the art room on my lunch breaks at school. And people will be like crowding around me going like, oh shit, yeah, right there, fit that piece right there. I'm like, really? Dr. Mario? I love puzzle games like this, like Dr. Mario and Tetris, where it's like things are dropping, you have to match up colors, shapes, whatever. This one is all about pills, advocating drug use. Good job, Nintendo. Thumbs up to you. Yeah, you have to match up the different colored pills to get them to go away, and you have to kill these germs that are like littered throughout the stage that are colors that match up with the pills. You match up 3 colors of the same, that part goes away. So you have a blue germ, put 2 blue pills on top of it, germ goes away. It's really, really fun. Gets really crazy. You can do like a 2-player version of it. It's really cool. The only thing is like it just after a while you kind of get tiresome. It gets very repetitive. So there's that. And there's also a version of this on the Game Boy that's in black and white. So you got gray, grayer, and grayest, and you have to match those colors up. And the last game, the moms in the carpool lines play. Yeah, you and I. Like when I tell people about like that are younger than me that Tetris was like the thing, like, it's just Tetris. Like, well, yeah, but when it was a new kind of concept and a new game type that no one had seen before, like people went absolutely nutso for it. It still surprises me to this day that of all games, Tetris. I mean, there's arcade games of Tetris. I played one at Mo Game Con. Whatevs. So the last game I'm talking about tonight is Dragon Spirit, the new legend. So, like I said earlier in this stream, when we got our Nintendo that one Christmas, and I think it was 89. I'm pretty sure it was 89. We got Contra and Double Dragon as our games. But then my brother and I were able to con my grandmother into taking us to a Toys R Us and get us each a new game. So I picked. No, it wasn't Gremlins 2. I didn't. My brother picked this. I can't remember what game I picked. I think it was Iron Sword. I think I picked Iron Sword, and my brother picked this. So we brought this back to my grandmother's place, where we came back, and my dad was playing the NES. He was playing Contra, and we're like, "Get your ass off our console that you didn't want us to have, heretic." You know, we got new games to play, kind of thing. And my dad was like, "All right." So my brother pops in the Dragon Spirit game, plays it for, I want to say, a good 45 seconds to a minute, starts crying, and starts going like, "I don't like my game. I want you to take us back to the Toys R Us so we can switch it." And my grandma's like, "I worked in retail. Once you've opened it, you're not going to be able to take it back. They're not going to accept it back just because you don't like it." My brother like lost his freaking mind. He was crying, went upstairs into the bedroom, had a temper tantrum kind of thing. And I'm sitting there going like, it's just a game. You know, if it's bad, you made a bad choice. You deal with it. Because I'd come to that realization with the Atari 2600. You know, seeing how my dad reacted to getting E.T. And Pac-Man. So I ended up playing it, and I didn't really like it that much either. But then again, at that point in time, I really wasn't into shmups. So it didn't really appeal to me. So we kind of we kept it. Don't get me wrong, we kept it. And I think eventually I traded it away to a friend for another game. So get back into collecting in 2014 or 2013, 2014. I think it was end of 2013. I'm going on eBay and I'm looking for cheap games to buy. And I didn't care what they were. And I found a copy of this complete in box for like $10. And I was like, I don't remember that game being that great. I remember not enjoying it. But for $10, I'll give it another shot. And if it sucks, I can always trade it off, like I was doing at the beginning if I didn't like a game. So, it shows up, I pop it in, and I'm playing it. And the game just kind of throws you into a boss battle. Like, you get super powered up, you fight a few smaller enemies, and then you have this boss battle. And I didn't realize when I was a little kid that this boss battle was actually the difficulty selection, the way the game would pick your difficulty. So if you fight this boss and you win, you're on hard mode. If you fight this boss and you lose, you're on easy mode. And I just didn't understand that back in the day, because I was like, you get a different, like, okay, so you'll beat that boss or you die at that boss. And then when you start playing the game proper, you'll see this like a cutscene where your character is standing on a mountain and he holds his sword up and you like summon a dragon. Depending on if you killed that boss or not, you get a different colored dragon, and one is more powerful than the other. And also, like I said, it picks your difficulty mode from that. And I thought that was absolutely genius. I was like, wow, that's a really cool way to gauge a player's skill level. And I ended up breezing through the game, and I was like, this game is amazing. What was I thinking? Well, as a kid, I was stupid. I didn't know things. I didn't know the way games are designed and stuff like that. I was like, as an adult, I'm like, wow, holy shit. Why? I was a dumb kid. This game is awesome. I absolutely love this game now. It is a really fun, vertically scrolling shmup where you play as a dragon. You can shoot airborne enemies, and you also shoot like these bombs to blow up things on the ground. There's these like jelly bean looking things that you can pop open that'll pop a power up out of it. You can gain more heads for your dragon, gain different shot types. You can shrink your dragon down, and it becomes more powerful that way for some reason. It's weird. You can make your dragon big, tiny, 3 heads. It's crazy. And it's really, really fun. And they really cool ways that they mix up the gameplay styles with like the way the levels play out. Like one of them, you're like, even though it's the most bland looking level, it's just black screen. But like all these vines keep on like getting in your way, and you have to shoot through the vines to get through the level. It's really, really cool. Really appreciated this more as an adult than I did when I was a kid. So much so that I actually went and picked up the TurboGrafx 16 version, since that's supposedly closer to the arcade version of this. So that's how much I liked it. So if you have not owned, or you do not own, or you have not played Dragon Spirit, do it. Do it now. Come on. What are you waiting for? I'm here. Play it now. I'm here. I conned my poor grandmother. Imagine having Tetris Effect back then. Yeah, I know. On the VR, no less. I played Tetris Effect on my PSVR. Yeah, I conned my grandmother. Got addicted to playing Tetris on my parents' Commodore 128. It was really cool and very fun, because I remember I would have different actual... Yeah, like Tetris is one of those things. Like, it was a cultural phenomenon at the time it came out. And then, like, just as quickly as, like, everybody loved it, all of a sudden everybody kind of forgot about it. Like, it came out on the Game Boy, and, like, all of a sudden everybody owned a copy of it. And after that, I was just kind of like, what was that? And then, like, Tetris 2 came out and nobody gave a shit. I'll have to check that one out. Sounds fun. Does it have good music? Yeah, the music is actually, well, it's like more beepy boopy, but the music is well made. It's not like Sunsoft quality, but it's good. It's more about the gameplay. The gameplay is pretty awesome. So that is the first third of my NES collection. Still got all that to go through up there. And like I said, I'm not even all the way through the D's yet. D's nuts. Shit. So 2 more shelves. Actually, this might be 4 videos. Yeah, this is going to be 4 videos. That's how much. I just realized there's 2 extra shelves. I'm going 2 shelves of games for each video. And for 2 shelves, it took me more than 2 hours to talk through it. Yeah. 4 NES videos, guys. 4. Holy crap. Yeah, I love the Gaming Historian. His channel is great. I got more of the D. Yep, I got more of the D. D, yes. So seriously, thank you, each and every one of you, for watching and joining me today and chatting with me while I was talking about my collection. I'll be back next Thursday with the second part in the NES series. Can't wait for that, because I had a lot of fun talking tonight. I'm so glad so many people showed up that are awesome to talk to. So like I said, next week, 8:00 p.m. Central Time, I'll be back with part 2. I'm toying with the idea of starting to do like those, what do they call them? The little mini videos with your phone that people have been doing now on YouTube. What are they called? Not the minis. Shorts. I think they're called the shorts. Doing like shorts every once in a while just to keep the content flowing, because I don't really do edited content anymore. My editing program, when I was doing the 31 days of licensed games videos, toward the end, I want to say the last 3 videos that I made, my editing program started getting really wonky, and I think like something might be wrong with the program. So I haven't been really messing with it all that much. because I don't want to like completely screw it up in case I need to use it for a film project or something. So I've been like avoiding doing edited content and sticking to the live stream kind of stuff. But if I can do something on my phone real quick and easy, that'd be great. Yeah, the little TikTok things, the shorts. Yeah, I'm thinking like at work, if I have nothing going on at work, I might just like shoot one real quick and upload it. But like I said, next Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, I'll be back with part 2. Keep an eye out for that. Look me up on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You're welcome to join me in conversations there as well. I look forward to that kind of stuff. I just want to talk video games, people. Just want to chit chat with y'all. So I will see you all next time. Thank you for joining. Chris, the old ass retro gamer, out. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe.